Good afternoon and welcome to day 8 of the Auroville Festival. But before that, happy birthday to each one of us. Buon fete, because today, February 28th, is a celebration of Auroville. 1968 was the year when this vision of Auroville as a city committed to human unity, the work had started. And since then, the aspiration has been to explore the aspect of self-giving. What it is to be a willing servitor. What does it really mean to be a willing servitor? And to distinguish it from what does it mean as a servant or a servitor? And what's the essence in our daily life? Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have given us a lot of it. But I think what we will look at today is how do we draw upon the essence today in our lives, in our work, and the commitment that Mother brought for us. But prior to that, I'm going to invite Jaya to just bring for all of us the context of Mahasarswati.
I will not be reading the whole text. I will be reading the last few lines on Mahasaraswati. A mother to our wants, a friend in our difficulties, a persistent and tranquil counselor and mentor, chasing away with her radiant smile the clouds of gloom and fretfulness and depression, reminding always of the ever-present help, pointing to the eternal sunshine. She is firm, quiet, and persevering in the deep and continuous urge that drives us towards the integrality of the higher nature. All the work of the other powers leans on her for its completeness. For she assures the material foundation, elaborates the stuff of detail, and erects and rivets the armor of the structure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jaya, for that. So, given the context that Jaya just read, I would probably like to start off with, while we know the last line that she is needed for the completeness, maybe I would like to understand, because even before we go into self-giving and willing to be servitor, what's the reason, the aspect of Mahasaraswati, that the other three powers, which is Mahakali, Maheshwari, and Mahalakshmi, that while in each brings their strength, they lean on to Mahasaraswati for the sense of completion or for the completeness. So I'm going to throw open this to the audience, to our distinguished speakers. We have Prabir from Pondicherry Ashram, Shankaran, Narad, Kirti, and Tapas, who's here in Auroville. So your point of view, your perspective, when you're starting off this, what's the reason or the context for leaning into Mahasaraswati for this? Because I think somewhere it dovetails into self-giving and willing to be a willing servitor. Anyone?
Actually, when I was asked to speak, I was wondering why I have been asked to speak, because I'm more of a ground level person, always in action. So I did some reflection, and the first thing is I was born on the Saraswati Puja day. So that was my immediate connect. The second thing was, right from my childhood, we celebrate Saraswati Puja at home. And on the Saraswati Puja day, we had to take our books and my guitar and keep it there, because that's knowledge and music and all that. So we have grown up with this concept. But generally, in our lives, we just pray to Mother, and I've never really focused on any particular aspect. But when you told me yesterday and I decided that okay, I'll speak, then I said I need to find out what is my connect with Saraswati apart from being born on the Saraswati Puja day. And I found there were two interesting components. One was Saraswati, Sara means essence, and Swa, Sara is essence, and Swa is self. It's she who helps us realize our essence of ourselves, and that is exactly the path we are on, right? So, on at one level, all of us here are on this path of finding out the essence of ourselves. And the swan, which is the Vahan of Saraswati, is spiritual perfection. So this connects so well because this is the line we have all decided to be in, and we need to be more conscious of it. The second interpretation was Sarasvati. The Saras means I think they have. Okay, this is relating to our work. Saras means pooling water, and Vati is she who possesses, which means she who has ponds, lakes, and pooling waters. And this is the work we are actually in now. And we are, so the way it connects is 24 years ago, I've given up my business work and everything because I felt that, we need to do something for ecology, for the environment. And that actually there's no problem with the environment, it's the problem with the people. So how to work with the people. So we started with the ocean because there was so much of interference with the ocean that we had this severe problem of erosion. And this was all voluntary work. And we struggled for almost 15 years. Because when we said that we want our beach back, people were laughing. How can you get a beach back? But we said we want it back. And what we learned was patience, perseverance, connecting with governments, connecting with communities. So it was a long journey, but at the end of it, we have the beach back. We had to, it took us 15 years, but a persistent effort. And this is what Saraswati talks about, her patience, and she will keep working and working and working on you until the results are there. So these are the qualities which we see so clearly in our work, that this is how we connect. The other thing we are working now is restoration of the water bodies. If you go around in Pondicherry, every single water body is in a pathetic state, full of garbage, sewage water being let in, encroachments, and so on. So we started our work in terms of restoration of these ponds, and this is where I was telling that pooling. She's one who holds the lakes, rivers, ponds, and in fact there's a Saraswati river which is not seen anymore. So this effort that we have put in, we have restored a number of ponds which were completely covered up and used as garbage dump sites for 30 years. People had forgotten that there was a pond there. We have restored that pond. We have restored a whole number of ponds because the pond becomes kind of the soul of the space. A, yes, it holds water. B, you have plants and you have insects, you have birds, you have fish. It's a whole ecology. So it's the biodiversity which is there. And C, it becomes a well-being space for everybody.
Sure.
So a pond, all the ponds we have restored, it has become a space where you can see people walking around in the mornings and evenings, connecting with the society. Otherwise, we just go home and shut ourselves up. So this has been a huge thing. And one thing which we have now, initiative we have taken along with the government of Pondicherry is called OSOP, One School, One Pond. So each school adopts a pond. And we have physics lab, chemistry lab, but which school has an environmental lab? So the pond becomes an environmental lab where they learn about ecology and they adopt the pond. So one is that they're adopting the pond, for which they have to work with the community. So you need this whole collaborative effort, that it's not me or you, it's not the government who can do it. It's a collaborative effort, only then we can restore this pond. And secondly, there is an integration of all the subjects. We learn history, geography, math, science, but what is the connection between them? But when you take My School, My Pond, you talk about the history of the pond. We were surprised that when you asked these students, have you ever visited a pond? They said no. So they had not visited a pond. They don't know about what ponds are and what happens. They have no clue. So now the whole system of, they are in fact working on inserting it into the curriculum itself,
Sure.
is the history of the pond, what is the geography, what is monsoon, what is the watershed area,
So what I'm hearing from you is that it started off with an idea, and that idea somewhere along the way kind of led you to look at integrality. It looked at you, who do I collaborate? How do I collaborate it? So there is a sense of persistence and a perseverance in that. And how do we perfect it, but not perfect it once, but ongoingly doing that. So if I were to ask the others, what has been your experience of being a willing servitor, and what has that worked through you for whatever projects that you have picked up? What's the distinction? And how does one really know? There is a concept, I'm a willing servitor, but there is a living of that being a willing servitor.
No, before that, I just wanted to touch upon the aspect that you asked previously, that
Sure.
is how Mahasaraswati completes the work of the others. So you see, Sri Aurobindo mentions one thing in the book The Mother, that she is the closest to earth nature of all the four aspects. In the ashram, in Sunil Das music, there is one Sanskrit shloka on Mahalakshmi. It's called Mahalakshmi Ashtotra, which is used extensively because it has mention of all the four aspects, which is very rare. Even in Durga Shaptashati, only three are mentioned. I'll just quote those brief lines. First is Maheshwari, Adiyanta Rahite Devi, Nitya Satya Maheshwari, Yogaje Yoga Sambhute, Mahalakshmi Namostute. But Mahalakshmi extolled as the Supreme Divine, Supreme Mother, and this is Maheshwari. Then comes Mahakali, Sthula Sukshma Maharaudre, Mahashakti Mahodare, Mahapapa Hare Devi, Mahalakshmi Namostute. Then you have Mahalakshmi, Padmasana Sthite Devi, Parabrahma Swarupini, Parameshi Jaganmata, Mahalakshmi Namostute. Fourth is Mahasaraswati, very interesting. Shvetambaradare Devi, Nanalankara Bhushite, Jagastite Jaganmata, Mahalakshmi. Jagastite, the one who resides in earth nature. All the four aspects need to work on us. We need to, unite with all the four aspects of the Mother before the action of the Transcendental Supreme can begin. Maheshwari, she is working within you, enlightening your mind, expanding your consciousness. She is that vast knowledge. Mahalakshmi, harmony, beauty, love, bhakti, devotion. That aspect comes through Mahalakshmi. Mahakali is that impetuous force. Whenever there is a blockage, whenever there is an obstruction, it's that power which helps you break through. In fact, that's one of the prayers of the Mother, where this Mahakali action is actually invoked by her. So all her prayers are for us to understand and use as our aspiration, where she says, break down the last resistances. Break down the last resistances. And then she says, blast the being if need be, but let it be transfigured. Break down the last resistances, and then there's one line which I'm forgetting, but the last two lines are, blast the being if need be, but let it be transfigured. That is the action of Mahakali. But all these actions change or bring something to you within. Whether it is an enlightenment of some kind, knowledge, or that courage. 2 days ago we were talking about the Mahakali aspect, the courage to really, break anything that resists within us. Or expanding our scope of love, going beyond the ego. Embracing more and more till you are able to embrace all creation. Because we are trying to actually unite with the Mother. And in Savitri, as Sri Aurobindo says, love in her was wider than the universe. the whole world could take refuge in her single heart. That love we have to do. But these are not things which are on the surface. Surface is earth nature. What we see outside, our outer lives, daily lives, our daily interactions. And that is where the Saraswati aspect comes in. Whatever we gain inside through Maheshwari, through Mahalakshmi, through Mahakali, in our daily life, in detailed things, small little things, interactions, awkward situations, situations you don't like, developments which you don't like, you want to change that. What we have gained in terms of harmony, love, knowledge, Mahasaraswati takes you into each and every one aspect of your life. Every little detail. In terms of rejection, yes, you want to reject everything that denies the divine. All that denies must be torn out and slain and crushed, the many longings for whose sake we lose the one for whom our lives were made. Beautiful, and I want to do it. I want to reject any and everything that comes between me and my own divinity, my own greater self, who is the Supreme, the One Supreme. But how do they go about doing it? Who points it out to me? When you are sincere in your aspiration, something which is, just before that, which was just normal. So mind justifies automatically, saying, no, it's quite true. You will react in this particular manner. You will do this thing in this particular way. Mahasaraswati will point out that in this is the thing which is wrong. Not the action, but your attitude. Where you are bringing in your ego and your own feeling that, I am doing it and I am doing it much better than others. And I am the only guy who really is sincere in the sadhana. This happens very often. Those people who say they think themselves sincere feel everybody else is lacking. But she is the one who will point out to you, let me show you and paint you your picture. And then you will be surprised. So the Mahasaraswati action completes the action of all the three: knowledge, will and love. So Sri Aurobindo always mentioned that these are the three things with which you have to unite when you unite with the divine. In the synthesis, especially where in the context of what we are talking about, yoga of divine works, the first paragraph he mentions this. Knowledge, will and love are the three aspects in which you have to unite with the divine. And knowledge, will and love, you can say Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi. But it is Mahasaraswati who brings in that detailed surrender and that integral union, which leaves out no aspect of your life, including your ordinary daily life, the physical world.
So I'm just going to be inviting Narad, who's been for many years here. You mentioned about the attitude. So in that sense, what is the kind of attitude of a willing servitor? How is it different from being a servant, which extols or tells us? But also, when I'm saying the right attitude, what's the role of our work that we do, and whatever work that we do it, and therefore the approach to it?
Selflessness.
Selfless.
Selflessness.
Could you expand that a little bit more, Narad? What's been your experience from when you started off your own meeting with the mother, and then your work through Auroville, through different departments, and the contributions that you continue to make?
I have received many adeshes from the mother. The first one was to bring down a new music, and that has blossomed into the Om Choir. The second one was to prepare to come and build the gardens of the Matrimandiya. The third one, 4 lines. Love all, no exceptions. To be a willing servitor, for me, means to get rid of the past habits, the past experiences, and live only in the mother. That is my life and my aspiration. I'll pass it on to you.
What's been your experience, Kirti? Like when I'm talking about the attitude, what is this inner attitude that, they both built in and they have layered it? And therefore, what is the approach of work? And what is this self-giving? There is a nuance that we understand. We think we are self-giving. But what is this offering of the self? What is being offered? Who is offering it? And in that process, what is the unfolding happening?
So I'll answer you a little indirectly.
Sure.
I'd like to just share that.
You can hold the mic closer.
So I think this aspect of Mahasarswati that we're trying to understand or realize, to me the greatest living example is Mother herself. So when we hear what she says about this eye for detail, the perfection in every work, and the perseverance, so more and more we realize, especially when you see how beautifully Mother has kind of created a rhythm in the whole lifestyle of the ashram, how she has like directed in detail everything around the Matri Mandir, the whole plan. So it just reminds me about once Nandalal Bose commented that the artist who created the form of the Nataraja, he had to be a yogi and an artist. It's not an artist alone who could have created the Nataraja, and nor the yogi alone. So it's this kind of beautiful infusion of art yoga, and Mother herself being first a trained artist and then the Divine Mother herself. And I think none other than this kind of direction that she has given us on the path of the deeper understanding of Mahasaraswati. So this infusion of Kala with yoga. And in my personal journey, I think having studied in the ashram and then studied art formally and then having returned in 2000, when I was eventually ready to offer my services to the ashram, they asked me, where would you like to offer your services? So very strangely, I said, anywhere but art. The reason being, I think, because it's very difficult for us here to talk of art in the traditional academics way. And I had come with all that just. And interestingly, at that time, they needed someone at Golkund. So I was sent to Golkund. So for those who don't know Golkund is an ashram dortoir, a dormitory house of the ashram, which had some special directions by Sri Aurobindo and Mother who can live in Golkund. So it was like meant for those who were there for serious sadhana and yoga of Sri Aurobindo. And Mother and Sri Aurobindo have personally given directions of every detail there. So when I was sent there, and for 20 years that I volunteered there, I actually realized how then Mother taught me to understand this thing of art in daily life, the perfection of every little action and how it can be done beautifully, how it can be done. So every place has a thing, everything has a place. This is something we know mentally, but what does it really mean to understand that in your living space? It kind of just reminds me of another line where in Nandalal Bose's writings he says that I'm surprised to see educated students leave their hostel rooms so disarranged, and when I visit the Shautal villages, I'm so amazed to see the beauty of the little huts and how they are beautifully arranged. So just to kind of understand this whole element of beauty. And recently, when we had a get together, which was organized by Tapas and Divya a few months back, and we had a presentation, for me, it was again a realization that Mother has stressed on this element of beauty very strongly and very clearly. And I somehow feel this element of Mahasaraswati is actually missing in all our lives. And that's why we have a problem in harmony. We also have a problem in just prosperity. Even I mean to say, as people, as a country, as the world. So I think, in my experience, what I feel being a divine servitor really means is just thinking, what can I give as a gesture of kind of uh, gratitude to the divine? And just like a tree, just like a banyan tree, a tree never thinks of what I can get. It just thinks of what can I give. And if as just divine servitors, we can each, because I realize that until we breathe, we all have something to give, and that's the important thing. So for me, through my work, it's this element of beauty. So in the current work I'm doing, we just celebrated 10 years of the arts center that I run in Pondicherry. So I said, what can we give to the city? So I said, let's put out 10 artworks in the public space. And I think, so we know Saraswati is a goddess of education, of beauty, of love, of knowledge. So actually that's what happens when beauty is out realized in a physical space. That's why our ancient culture was so rich. The kings, even if they would have conquered, a big land, the first way they would kind of acknowledge their gratitude to the divine would be by constructing a temple. And and then everything, the temple took care of the whole well-being of the people. So Saraswati has that power of our integral well-being and art and culture and beauty. So we all need to understand the role that beauty plays. So one of my attitudes in the public artworks I do is I would maybe select the most difficult corner, or I would select the dirtiest corner, or the most problematic corner with drunkards and darkness, and just put beauty out there in the middle of the street. So just kind of random acts of beauty. And so many things get solved. The drunkards come say, Nandrima, Ramba Araga, the next day, automatically darkness goes away. So I think that's the power of Saraswati, and that's my kind of effort.
Thank you for sharing those examples, quite inspirational. So Tapas, to you is, you've been involved in quite a few coordinating activities for the campus and that. What has allowed you to sustain the spirit of self-giving and being a willing servitor?
What has sustained me is the fact that I'm taking on to what Kirti has said. I've been brought up in the ashram, and the role of the arts in our school education, for me, it was very important. And whatever else we did apart from that, painting, sculpture, dance, music, as instruments to self-development, was extremely important as an integral part of our education. So, the other aspect that we have been taught or naturally grew up with is the spirit of service. Whether it was in school or the ashram or farms or whichever department where we went to work as students, it was always with the spirit of service. And that has sustained me all through from day one of Auroville. And just to mention, I was there on the very first day of Auroville as a representation of, chosen by the ashram school, that I would hold the Syrian flag because that country was absent. And so another colleague of mine, he held the bowl of salt, which represents the salt from the ocean because the soil didn't come from Syria. And I held the Syrian flag. So when I was there on that day, very first day, it was a big sense of adventure all through the first concept of Mother's idea of creating Auroville and how we came up to this day of inauguration. And my wish was always how to serve that dream of the mother. Like Roger Anger, the architect, would be meeting the mother every day in 65, 66, 67, 68, until the day of the inauguration was decided, and it happened. He would bring us big sheets of paper in our class and say, please dream, and how would you interpret this dream of Auroville? So we had to do sketches. And not just the dream of the city, but she says, how would you dream the soul of the city? So, coming to talking about the soul of the city in Auroville, for me, in the physical manifestation form, Mother has created this place called Matri Mandir, the Temple of the Mother. And the very Temple of the Mother is built on the four aspects of the Mother. And if you remember, the four pillars are the four aspects of the Mother: Mahasarswati, Mahalakshmi, Maheshwari, and Mahakali. So, symbolically for me, all aspects are important, including Mahasaraswati. But without going into this detail, I would rather feel more inspired to talk about the spirit of service, which we have a tendency to forget, especially in the growth of Auroville. Since I'm connected to Auroville almost from its day one, and I'd chosen this place to be my place from the very first day of Auroville. It was a very powerful experience on the day of the inauguration, and my entire family was present also on that day. Come. And she said very clearly that this place is to serve before anything else. And serve not just yourself, but also serve that dream that Mother has given us. And a place to be for the entire humanity and not just for the residents. How do we serve? The banyan tree in Matri Mandir, the message for the banyan tree Mother has given, O service de la vérité, to the service of the truth. So while serving in Auroville, when I've chosen to serve my knowledge in the field of organizing arts, whether it's performing or visual arts, but how do I serve and how much I can give, more than asking yourself, what can I get if I choose to be here? And this whole sense of self-giving, one tends to forget by being allowed to have the freedom to choose what you want to do. But we forget that this freedom goes with discipline. not freedom to do what you want, but freedom to do exactly what you're supposed to do in the spirit of service. So for me, this is where we need to educate ourselves and more how do we give ourselves. While the community looks after you, which I hope the community has not yet reached that level where they look after every individual in Auroville, because everybody has to struggle. So in that struggle of giving, we forget to give because we are all struggling to maintain ourselves. And you know what I'm talking about. Everybody struggles, and the most easiest aspect is we repeat ourselves what the world has done outside. But the mother expects us to do something new, which never has been done before anywhere, whether it's education, whether it's farming, whether it's art, whether it's dance or music. What is it that's in the spirit of the future, the spirit within us? How do we constantly work as work in progress to find that new form? But for me, service is essential in Auroville, absolutely. And Indian context, in the language of Indian context, the word service is seva. And of course, in all ashrams in India, we are expected to give seva. In a sense, symbolically, in Auroville, we are here also to give seva. Ourselves, self-giving. And that's what sustains me most of the time. So whenever I pray, I said, may your will be, may the divine will be, and nothing else. May I always learn to give in all forms. So I never ask, and I try not to ask. And for me, all the time the mother has taken care of my needs. Whether it's my dreams, my desires, my travels, my learning processes all over the planet where I've traveled. For me, this is my home for service. So I can be out anywhere. I may go astray, but then I have to come back here to serve. So we are really here to serve, and I'm happy we are celebrating Auroville's 55th anniversary. If I'm not wrong, we are 55 years old. And nature has, Saraswati nature, has manifested for me. Look at the number of trees, flowers, beautiful architecture, beautiful people. But I think as human beings, we have still a long way to go and learn how to serve and give ourselves. And if that trust is there, we are taken care of.
So I heard that, and since you brought this, so what today is bringing about the dilution, if I can use the word, or what is having us move out of focus? Especially when you're an individual and we are expected as a collective, where I don't think there is any one particular leader, but the reflections on the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. For each one of you, how does one bring that essence alive every day? We talk about spirit of service, we talk about self-giving, we talk about seva, we give about ourselves, and we talk about no fruit to action. We have all that on the ground. The lay of the ground is very clear, the foundation is very clear. And yet today we are not seeing that. Right? There are different voices, there is different pulls and strains. And even in terms of the word, when I'm saying willing, there may be some people intentionally are willing, but there is unwillingness as well. And maybe the divine and the mother is also going to work through it. So the preconditioning or presupposing that we are presuming, does that alter the lay or the counter of the land?
I would say, although it may sound very technical answer, but it's really growing in consciousness. And I think we are not using enough the space that Mandir has given us inside that chamber. if we make it as a practice, each one individually and collectively, to go there and go within ourselves and how to grow in consciousness. Because it's all about consciousness in detail, how beauty can manifest, how cleanliness, order, harmony, it's all about consciousness. So it's the biggest challenge in Auroville, because we tend to fall into ordinary routine and reproduce the same models we have all over the world, including in India. And Mother doesn't want us to repeat that. And in order not to repeat, how to be conscious every day. Even conscious now while we are all together, every second of the moment we live on this planet. And that's the biggest challenge. And I'm in the same boat as anybody. I do forget in my joy of living in ordinary routine, but I would like Mach Mandir as a space for self-discovery and how to go within, how to, I don't know, it's a challenge. How can Aurovillians be encouraged to use that space? Because if that's used, I think the rest will automatically follow. It's become a touristic monument. More people from outside use that, more than Aurovillians as residents. And those four aspects of the Mother are there. It's the whole globe is built on that. And inspiration starts from there.
So what would your perspective be? Narad or Shankaran or Prabhu?
Remember the Mother at every minute of your life. Even though we have to transcend all the past, she is with us. She is with us in every way imaginable to a human being. Sri Aurobindo is with us at every moment, guiding us, blessing us, supporting us with His vastness and His compassion. For me, to build the gardens of the Matrimandir is my life's work. But, as we all know, there are many facets to our life's work. For example, I do recordings of Aurovillians and Ashramites and their experiences, some who have met Mother, others who have met Sri Aurobindo, and some who understand so deeply the works of Sri Aurobindo, Life Divine, Synthesis of Yoga, Essays on the Gita, Savitri. So I tried to bring that harmony into all my life. And there are so many challenges because there's an obstinacy in our vital and our minds that has to go. We have to transcend anger, frustration, desire, impatience. And the only way to do that is either by a rigorous lifetime tapasya or offering everything to Mother, who can take things away that in many lifetimes, we could not. To remember her at every moment, which is my aspiration, may seem to be mechanical at first, but eventually one finds oneself invoking her without the mind involved or the vital. Let us give joy to all, for joy is ours.
See, Narad just mentioned about remembering the mother constantly. So, one conversation the mother, Satprem had with the mother just came to my mind. Satprem asked the mother something, and mother said, it is very difficult for the human mind to understand how the supreme consciousness can be conscious of everything at the same time. The whole universe, your mind, what is going on, my mind, and mosquito fluttering its wings, and some toad croaking somewhere in a ditch. Not one toad. Imagine the number of live organisms happening, and the supreme consciousness is conscious of everything at the same time. And then she added something which makes it even more interesting. She said, in the microscope. Means she knows how many times each mosquito is fluttering its wings. And then we don't have to think. She's constantly present in our thoughts, in our emotions. She's there. And very interesting thing which happened with Udar Pinto. After almost 25 years in the ashram, he was the one to whom the task of building the Samadhi for Sri Aurobindo was given. And he was somebody who was known for working in the ashram. He goes and asks the mother, Mother, how am I progressing in the sadhana? And mother says, you are not progressing at all. You are not doing any yoga. He is surprised. Then mother says, what do you do when you wake up in the morning? He says, I wake up, tell me in detail. He said, I brush my teeth first. When you are brushing your teeth, am I there with you? That is sadhana. Because she is constantly present, and not only that, when my hand is moving, it's she who's moving. You see, Sri Aurobindo underlined this many times. There is only one energy which does everything. So it's my mind. My mind, by its nature, is given to division. So if I see a fan moving, I'm seeing the divine in movement. It's not just a fan. It's the manifestation, and there is only one consciousness, one being, one force. Nothing else. That's reality. Remembering is to remember. Because Sri Aurobindo once said, if possible, like constantly remember the mother, if possible, thinking of her as the divine mother. Why should he say that? Because when you think of her as the divine mother, you are not humanizing her. She is the supreme conscious force that dominates all existence. And that is where the point comes of being the servitor and the servant. See, when we talk about the servitor, we have to remember Sri Aurobindo's sonnet, The Divine Worker. A wonderful line there. Thy smile within my heart makes all mystery. This defines the servitor. He doesn't need anything else. The servant is doing something because he's getting something in return. He's being taken care of, maybe given some money, accommodation, and he works in return for that. A servitor simply because he loves the one he serves, he adores. He doesn't, he cannot think of, not serving. Like, if you are deeply in love with someone, maybe your child, constantly you are looking, he's going there, I see a fruit, I want to buy it for my child. You're so happy. That smile within your heart comes spontaneously when you serve the divine. And the divine is in everything. That's the whole point of the yoga. It's not that, and I'm sitting in meditation. I'm with the divine. I'm walking, talking, doing some odd little jobs. That's what mother told of that. When you are brushing your teeth, if you are brushing it with me, then you are doing yoga. And that's what we have to remember when we are working. There was somebody, many of the ashram people know, Human Bai, Chunibai Patel. Was known as the mother's worker, and he would not even come for the distribution of blessing packets. And I don't know how true it is, but it is told that he used to have a ladder when mother was in a room in the second floor, that from the balcony opposite he'll put the ladder, climb up the ladder to the mother's window and talk to the mother and come back, not to waste time. He had that constant smile which was his reward. And mother talked about Hanuman also, because once we talk about servitors in the Indian context, we always talk about Hanuman, because he was serving Rama, and mother said Hanuman is the vital, the life force surrendered to the divine. So Hanuman, there is the Hanuman Chalisa, there is a wonderful line which comes in that Chalisa. Ram kaj karibe ko aato. He's avid to do the work. Not that, he says, okay, I come to the yoga, so now I will be doing the work for the mother or for the divine. He wants more and more of it. And as I think Kirti was saying, mother herself gave that example, right from the morning till about 2 o'clock in the night, constantly she was doing, she was working. Because she didn't say, okay, I am the divine mother, so I will serve only the divine Lord. She saw the Lord everywhere because she knew that all this is nothing but the divine. When you have that attitude, you don't see other people, and then there are no conflicts. It's a spontaneous movement that comes from within, and love, the servitude becomes a joy. There's no greater joy.
So to this one last point, before we have the audience, how does one bring this attitude in conflicts and differences in a collective aspiration of a vision? And yes, please add, I know, but that question came in the context of Anisha.
In fact, that is exactly the way we act. For me, all the work we do comes, we follow this Shravinda's quotation. All problems of existence are essentially problems of harmony. So, this disconnect within oneself, this disconnect with the people around us, this disconnect with the environment is actually the problem. So we work on 3 aspects: the knowledge, the attitude, and the skills. So we need to work on all these. And when you work on yourself, you see how actually the situations changes outside. When we started working, we would go to government offices and warm the chairs outside for hours. But now you can walk in straight because you have built a rapport with the public. We work with fishermen, farmers, we work with all kinds of communities. So the whole thing is about how you build this collaboration. And in our kind of work, what we do in terms of restoration of water bodies, coast, etc., you have to involve the government. There are a lot of things they're doing are not okay, but you have to work with the government, you have to work with the people, the communities. And I find that the biggest problem is this willingness to work with others. I'm happy what I'm doing, I have my views, I have my whatever I think is right, but to sit with a group and find out a common path, that is the toughest thing. You go to any community meeting, you go to, but there's a whole art, how you get people involved, how you come up with a shared vision, how you build up collective action. These are things we have learned in our work. And Mahasarswati, what I was just, when I was reading today, because I don't read much, I'm always in action, I was saying that if she chooses you, she will give you the intuition, she will give you the patience, she will give you the perseverance, she will give you all the qualities in terms of being able to communicate, in your practical work. She will provide you with everything, and she will even give you the results. So all the efforts, we see results. But at the same time, you see the kind of growth in yourself, in the people around you, the attitudes of the government officials, how they change. You can now talk to them and on a one-to-one basis. It's not a sir kind of thing. They're friends now. So it's a relationship you build, the harmony and this whole collaboration. This what you were asking is the problem is this collaborative effort, which is very difficult, and you need to have skills to do that. It's not just I want to work. It's not that. You need to have skills how you have discussion with the community, how you get them involved in your work, not your work, in their work, because it's a common work. How you build vision where everyone says ultimately yes, this is what we want. When you create the vision, everyone should be able to see something of that, which is his or hers. Otherwise, it's your vision or her vision. It's not my vision. So how do you make them see that? Those are the challenges, and I think it's a very interesting journey when you start working on this harmony, and you see how to build collaboration with the government, with the communities. It's a journey, but you keep getting better at it.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience, if you have a reflection, a question, throwing open the floor? Yes, sir. Let it come.
So,
It's on.
yes. So, listening to you all and what you were speaking now, I very much wanted to ask Kirti to speak a little bit about, because you have been growing up in ashram, your whole family has been there, steeped in the work, and you have, when you came back, served at Golconda, you said, for 20 years. And then the bit that I know about your present work, because I have that WhatsApp coming, no? And I know since some year I'm not living in Pondi, so I don't attend anything, and hardly in Auroville either. So it's other work. But I see how you work with so many people and at so many levels, and which is very inspirational and aspirational. So I wanted you to speak a little bit about this, because I see from what you were speaking that at this point in Auroville, we actually are forced to interact with a lot of people. I work in ATDC. We had a G20, so I had every day for 8 or 10 days. Contractors, contracted people, CPW, very, highly educated, also people completely who were carrying the grass. And I saw we have to learn to interact on all this level. This is about human unity, no? That is why we are here. And we are so used to live in a bubble somehow, no? So I felt when I heard you speaking, and you also, I wanted to speak a bit about how do you see this service, which is, like Narad said, it is with Mother, no? It's what she asks us to do. And at the same time, it's also where our gifts and our skills comes in, no? So can you speak on this? Thank you.
There's a mic there, another mic. Yeah.
Is humility. First step in humanity is the humility. You can get that.
Hello. Hello. Yes, to kind of answer Jaya's query. Hello. Yeah. So I think we are very fortunate, all of us who get to live in the zone of the earth, in the kind of community of ashram and Auroville, because there is some special kind of force. So in India we have a word called satsang, and this whole element of how do we become conscious at every moment, that's the most difficult thing. Like we get angry, we have desires, we have ego, which is the biggest problem, and things like that. And like Prabir said, it's very important for us to learn to work with people, even if we all see whatever is in you reflects in your family, in the smaller community, and in the larger kind of group. So, coming more in the direction of the work I'm doing, in the direction of art, I think another thing we're very fortunate in the ashram is this brilliant free progress system that Mother has given us as our education system. Because I meet a lot of people around who even at 50, 60 still don't know exactly what they want to do in their life. And I think many of us who know we are blessed because then already you know what is your kriya or what is the karma, which is the path through which you will serve the divine. And once that, and the education in the ashram, the free progress system, for some who may not know it, so now it's even getting better and better by every year. Like when I was a student, it was only in the higher course, which we call knowledge. But now, and now it is coming to AVP 4, so to younger classes. So basically, Mother believed that at the age of 14, a child should be given full freedom to do what he or she wants in his or her life. And teachers have told Mother that, but what if the child is wasting their time? So the mother has said, no, it doesn't matter. It's their life, they're free to use it, waste it, whatever. And she believed that in this experiment of mine, even if there are only a handful of children who benefit, she said, I believe I'm successful. So, having had this education where every year when I was in school, I used to have a new passion, a new hobby, and poor parents of mine would have to 1 year buy ghungru, next year calligraphy pen, third year pottery dress, fourth year oil paint. So we just indulged and we dabbled, and there was no difference. We were completely free to do what we like, and we just enjoyed it. We never wanted to go home. So in retrospect, I feel like this whole understanding later drives home this thing about the multifacetedness of education and life, and that is what our whole learning is about. So I was just looking at some other educators, and I think a little bit of our problem, are a little bit of the Sri Aurobindonian problem, if I may dare to say so, is we're intellectualizing too much. And I really feel there's a great problem there. And I feel so fortunate. Like suppose I'm late and I've missed the ashram timing, and I just crossed the balcony street, and I say, wow, this is actually where you're closest to Sri Aurobindo's window, where he wrote the Savitri. So you just sit there and you just contemplate that how did this avatar like rule the world through silence with his pen. And it is very important for us, I feel, to talk less and work more, and keep working. And so through the work I do, for me it's like a conviction that culture is the greatest power and force for transformation. And that's how ancient India was so prosperous, because its whole basis was on culture. But today we have become consumerist, and we are aping the consumerism of the world, forgetting our culture, and almost the culture becomes a footnote for a CSR project, for getting funds, for putting a profile to your etc. So for me, I feel we have to do it as a center stage activity. And the moment we do that, the harmony within and without will blossom. So in the work I do, I actually just do the work. I don't actually expect. So a lot of people ask me, like, you do so many events. So I tell them that for me, I think Sri Aurobindo in the National Value of Art has very clearly said art has three important roles. One is to beautify, which we all understand. It's simple. We want to wear beautiful clothes. We want to decorate our homes beautifully. We want to. Then he says it's for education. So we also understand how art helps us in our learning process. But the greatest and the third, which he says, is self-transformation. And I feel, let's say, even 2 months back when I was in my hometown, in my village, and climbing up on the mountain. So, just this line from Savitri came that God fulfilled in nature, nature fulfills God. Narav can quote me better. It fulfilled in God. So I was just asking myself, what made these artists up on the mountain top in the heart of the thick forest to sit and carve a Hanuman Murti or do a cave of Buddha? So I think that's where art goes, and that's where man has kind of giving birth to God, if I may say so, invoking God. When we went to Kumbhakonam to see the bronze sculptures, and you're literally in this kind of workshop where from the Chola period, the 34th Sthapati is today continuing the lineage, and basically it is that family which has housed all the bronzes starting from our Vinayagar Koil to the Tanjavur temple, and you literally feel you're in the space where man has given birth to God. And this experience kind of just tells me that what art gives man, and why there is this need of culture and art which kind of embodies the divine in us. So even in the rasa theory, there is no unhappiness. Once everything is beauty, there's only beauty. There's only ananda. So when I do any event, it's just I tell myself I just want to kind of do what I feel needs to be done, and that's all. And then I think like a banyan tree, you just grow, and then birds come, fruits are there, and flowers bloom.
Thank you for that. So, I'm going to bring this conversation to a close, and I'm inviting everyone else to have a conversation once. But what I would like, have you had a question? No. So, to each one, I mean, it could be a quote that brings this essence closest to you, and literally you live that each day, or it could be just a statement or a feeling. What does self-giving and to be a willing servitor mean for you? So if we could end this with each one, it could be a statement that you live every day, it could be a quote, it could be a line.
My mantra is every day, may thy will be, and may I be always your instrument and help me transform.
Thank you. Sure.
Ma, ma, ma.
For me, basically, the self-giving. You see, there was a Tamil saint called Tirumular who wrote ancient Tirumandiram, which is a gist of ancient knowledge of yoga. It is said that he said to Shiva, whom he considered the supreme, I, who am nothing, and who actually has nothing, possesses nothing, gave all of myself to you. And in return, you who are everything and have everything, gave yourself back to me, all of yourself. Now between the two of us, who's more intelligent? So for me, it is a little difficult to think that I really have something which already is not the divine's. My problem or my attempt is to open up the blockages so that which interferes, and because of which there is imperfection, there is distortion in every aspect, even in terms of knowing the divine. So I would love to do what the divine will wants me to do, but So that's the simplest thing. After that, I don't have to worry. I don't have to think. I don't have to, say whether this is right. Because we have this line from Servitor, wrong could not come where all was light and love. So as she manifests more and more, my job is to constantly call her, and I find that she gets things done far better than if I was trying to attempt and do something.
For me, once you are clear on your mission, you have to get that commitment and make that commitment, and you go on, and you'll be, all the forces will help you to make it happen. It's very clear. I mean, all our works, we see the way things, doors open, funds come in, things just happen. So you have to just be, one thing is you have to be clear, you have to be committed. And of course, it's not that it is without conflicts. I mean, all the meetings, you'll see a lot of conflicts, a lot of disagreements. But then the whole art is how to move on in spite of the differences. And unless we can do that, and that comes from, creating that compassionate feeling that, okay, we have a difference of opinion. So, but what do we agree on? So let's move on the agreements. And so, that Sanskrit quotation says, if I am not for myself, who is for me? Because nobody else can, I have to take care of myself. But if I'm only for myself, what am I for? So if I'm not for myself, who is for me? But if I'm only for myself, what am I for? So once I have my mission, I have to be humble, I have to see how to grow within, and she will help. But you have to keep pushing on that direction.
Kirti?
It's a little bit like actually what Tapal says. I just say that let thy will be done, and may I accept that as my will as thy will. So I think in life there are so many things that don't happen the way you actually want it to happen constantly. And the real realization is to understand actually what happens is the divine will. And may you learn to happily accept that as your will. So the wisdom lies in being able to fully surrender to whatever happens to you. And I believe after the lockdown, I have another series of works that I was doing called the New Wave. And I think the new wave is to live in the here and the now and act in the moment to your best. Because that is the most important time in your life, in the moment. So to be, I just keep saying that just be to your fullest, to your best.
Thank you so much to each one of you to bring in the understanding, the flavor, the practice, also pointing in and sharing how, yeah, conflicts, disagreements, everything happens, but how does one really persevere? Because ultimately, this is Divine's way of reminding who we really are and for what we are here. And what needs to be accomplished, because we are the instruments. If not us, then who? So thank you. So thank you so. Thank you so much. Really appreciate, and thank you for bringing in the richness of this. It's a never-ending conversation that I think it brings us back to ask those fundamental questions, to stick to it, and to work on ourselves, to refining ourselves, and to keep opening, and to never lose sight of the possibilities of what is possible. So, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, as a small token of an appreciation, please accept a humble gift.